we've got some guests and visitors today we'd like to recognize. So as I call your name, if you'll stand with your host Rotarian, we'll get a chance to see you. And then as our custom, we'll hold our applause to the end of the list. So to get right on with it, Elaine Moore-Jones has brought a guest, Ron Snow. Ron is with the Moore Funeral Home also. Linda Bradshaw has a guest, Joanne Frizzell. Her company is Mad Chicks. Sounds like fun. Alicia Herrera has brought Matt Moore. Where are you? Oh, there. Okay. The Rotary group has Josh Chesney, Kyan Thomas, and Trevor Hughes. Yay for Rotary. Cal Vaught has Eric Vaught, grandson. Welcome. Marlene Livaday has Emily Ferguson with the Tulsa Shock. Larry Pinkerton has Lewis Price, his father-in-law. Tim Caldwell, haven't seen Tim, has a guest, Charles Hembry. Hi, Charles. We're going to have an introduction with our speaker, but before we do, I want to introduce the speaker's wife, Paula. Paula, there you are. Larry Meredith and Eric Costanza. These are guests of our speaker, Deron Spoo. We have two visitors, visiting Rotarians from the Sunrise Club, Tom Clark, past district governor. We have Jessica Cox from Southside. That concludes the list. Let's give them all a hand. Welcome to you all, and please come back. We'll be disappointed if we don't see you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Now, you notice that the beautiful fall leaves, the ones that are still clinging, are a beautiful red. Well, our computer and screen today is celebrating fall with us. So I do hope you enjoy the red images throughout our program today. It's a very special treat from our tech team. All right. Our Rotary sponsor this week is Tim Nall with We Be Trees, and we encourage you to do business with your fellow Rotarians. And please, let's thank all of today's sponsors and our volunteers. And committee meetings today, Club Foundation grants, room 232, and Salvation Army bell ringers, the Beacon Room. Now, on behalf of the club, I want to extend our sincere sympathies to Rotarian Jerry McCart on the passing of his wife Paula last week. Private family services were held. Please keep the McCart family in your prayers. And Tulsa Rotaract members are joining us today. Yay! They're back there. And this young group of professional Rotarians might be a great fit. If you know of anybody, an employee who would be part of that group, they would love to get some ideas from you. So please use the sheet on your table to refer to, give them some ideas for some Rotarians for Rotaract. So they're back there, but we'll pick those up and hand them out. On December 4th, you will elect one of 3 director-at-large candidates by ballot. To read more about Kathy Gorell, Tony Oliva, and Steve Perkins, go to the club website. And if you cannot attend the December 4th meeting, see Jane Stewart for an absentee ballot. Absentee ballots must be cast before December 4th by returning them to Jane or the Rotary office in a sealed envelope. And in project announcements, we begin with Paula Wood, Shop with a Cop. And she's got the top cop.
He is the top cop. I didn't think we were so early on the agenda, so okay, all right. So welcome, everyone. This is a man who obviously needs no formal introduction, the fabulous Chuck Jordan, our chief of police. So you know what he's going to talk about today is the impact of cops in our school system, in our school district, and in particular, City of Clinton. So before he does that, and also I would just want to say this is a part of the TPD mission. So he's going to expand upon that statement. But for now, I'm going to tell you, inside here I have 35 wonderful badges. We've been commissioned by Chief Jordan to give each of the students that show up for Shop with a Cop on December 7th a badge. So there are only 18 people that have signed up to volunteer. Now, this doesn't count the committee because they're there anyway, right, Rob? Working really hard that day. So I'm going to walk around. If you have signed up to Shop with a Cop, raise your hand because you are going to take one of these and you're going to give it to your little precious person the day on Saturday, December the 7th. So raise your hand. I'll be coming around, and I'd like to reintroduce Chief Jordan.
Paul, thank you. As Paul said, you know, community involvement is very much a part of our mission. I think I've said from the day I got here, and I continue to say it, we've got to interact with our community. One of the best ways to do that and to ensure where we're going to go from here is interact with our children. They're our future. That's why as Rotarians, we support City of Clinton. We recognize the fact that this is our future that we're investing in. Shop with a Cop is certainly one of those missions that I wholeheartedly support. There's 30 families, 30 children that are going to have a Christmas that wouldn't have one if they did not engage in this. It's a great opportunity for my officers. They always tell me it's one of the most rewarding things they've ever been involved in. If you've ever had an opportunity to be with somebody that's truly in a level of poverty, truly does not know the joys of Christmas that we all, by the grace of God, we all have that in this room. Some of these kids don't, some of these families don't. 35 families will be impacted greatly by the Rotary and by the police department. And I encourage anybody else that wants to be involved to certainly jump up and do that. It starts with a luncheon on Saturday, December 7th at 11 o'clock. I say a luncheon, it's probably going to be a sandwich, where the officer will, or the Rotarian will sit down and have lunch with the child. The child will then go out and actually do the shopping for other family members, as well as pick a gift for himself. My wife heard that I was going to speak about this today at Rotary, Shop with a Cop. She said, "Oh, that's a great idea. When can we go?" So, I see Chico's in my future probably, but anyway, I hope you all really get involved with this. This is a really great deal for the police department. It's a great deal for Rotary, and it's a tremendous deal for the families of these kids. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Ed Monette.
Thank you, Karen. Let's review. Ron Burton, we'll get to that in a second. Get your 3D glasses on, it looks a lot better. Ron Burton, Rotary International President from our great state of Oklahoma, issued a challenge to all Rotarians to give something to Rotary International, either through the annual program fund or most importantly through Polio Plus. If a Rotary Club gives 100%, has 100% of its members gives, they become first class. Ron Burton issued a challenge to all clubs to become first class. Now, Polio Plus, if you give to Polio Plus, it helps Bob McKenzie. Bill and Melinda Gates will match any Polio Plus contribution 2-to-1. A $5 gift becomes 15. That inoculates 25 children against polio. Let's see. We have decided we wanted to be the first large club in the world to achieve first class. Okay, that's all review stuff, and I apologize last week for peer pressure to have people look at who doesn't have a dot and to glare at them because we hadn't updated all the dots, and so I won't ask you to do that again this year, but you can if you want to. On the screen, this is important to Karen. And Karen was in Lisbon, Portugal, at the Rotary International Convention, was walking alongside President Burton and commented on how much she was moved by his challenge. And she committed then and there in Europe that she would get her club to do it. And Ron Burton was so impressed, he took the actual fancy lapel pin that we all will get if we all get 100% and gave it to Karen. And so Karen says that's actual proof. Now, I believe that is the Lisbon Municipal Courthouse, and I don't know why you were standing outside of that. Was it, he just
We were in
posted bail?
trouble.
Now, little sense of urgency here. Our last 2 weeks, when we made this announcement, we first announced it to you all, our last two speakers have both been from Oklahoma City. Burns Hargis, matter of fact, was a member of the Oklahoma City Rotary Club, and I am afraid that the heathens down the turnpike may be trying to co-opt our little challenge, and they want to become the first in the world to become the first large club. So, please, everyone fill out the silly little card on your table. It's real simple. Your name and amount. The amount is not important. It's an amount. $5 is great. $1 is fine. Whatever you are moved to give, but we want everyone to participate. So please, let's do that right now and become first class.
Okay, Mr. Sooner. Did you get your magazine? Did you see what was inside of it? There's 4 pages on the Million Mile Man, which is Ron Burton. It's a great article, and if he'd been on the cover, you would have opened it and read it by now, I'm quite certain. But anyway, I just had to share that. And so any other OU folks that get this magazine, Ron Burton's featured in there. So thank you very much. And Joseph Bias with a little quick task for us on Crescendo.
Okay, everybody that has a smartphone, take it out and turn it on. You will not hear those words often here at the club. We want you to help us because through the efforts of Melissa Clark, we have a wonderful Crescendo Facebook page. And our own DJ Morrow was instrumental in getting us a brand new logo for the poster, brand new poster for the competition this year. That is it. It is not supposed to be red. It really looks good when you see it. So what I want you to do is on your table, you have a card which has a QR code on it. If you'll take your phone, if you've got a QR reader, take your phone and scan that code. It'll take you to our Facebook page. Log in and like us. I will be monitoring throughout the meeting how many likes we get. If you are challenged by this, the Rotaract folks are right back there, and they will be glad to help you, okay? So like us on Facebook. It means a lot to our promotion right now. We got 2 promotions going. One is for getting more likes, but the other is for getting the word out about the competition worldwide. And the more likes we have, the more Facebook lets people see it, okay? So do that, and we'll appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Oh, happy birthday. Yay. Oh, birthday brother. All right. Of course. Thank you. All right, and now we have Martin Keating about the Salvation Army bell ringers.
Over hill, over dale, we have hit the dusty trail, and those caissons go rolling along. In and out, hear them shout, counter marching right about, and the caissons go rolling along. Good afternoon, recruits. Welcome to the, welcome to the U.S. Army. We're glad that you've all joined. Appreciate your being here. And are you trying to indicate something to me by a...
What are you doing?
I'm
We're-
talking to my recruits.
Yeah, for Salvation Army bell ringers. Bell ringers?
What? Salvation Army?
Salvation Army bell ringers.
Do they carry guns?
Could I get somebody else up here?
Never mind.
Sarge, that we sign up out there, and you can then take part in the Salvation Army Bell Ringing Day, and it helps a lot of people. Put cash money in there. We always raise more than anybody else on that day. We're kind of proud of that. You need to help me get recruits there.
Oh, well then, never mind the preceding by the Sarge. Now that I think about it, though, do you know what happens every time a bell rings during the Christmas season? No
Yeah.
Sarge gets a promotion. So recruits, line up outside after lunch and sign up
It's for the bell ringers, Thursday, December 5th. Thursday, December 5th. Finally, Madam President, this is ridiculous. The word of the day is nincompoop.
I bet that
Do you know the definition of nincompoop?
I'm thinking it looks something like you.
That was not in the script, totally out of order.
Sorry. Thank you, Sarge.
Please sign up for the bell ringers. Dismissed.
Thank you for the clarity on that. Woo! All right. And we have another birthday, and that is Donna Mercier. Donna, stand up. Well, let's all wish Donna a happy birthday. Yay, there you are. It was actually last week, but anyway, we're getting you covered. The 16th, I think, right? All right. Sergeant at Arms, Janet Rockefeller.
I have no fines this week. I have something extra special, though. Tim Nall, you the man. I have 2 tickets to the OSU Baylor game. Now, because I've already admitted that I'm not a professional auctioneer, we have one. I'm going to take these back to Ed, and he's going to be in charge. So you guys, look at your checkbook balances and get ready.
It is a sold-out game. Yeah. Woo! Oh! Ed, thank you. You should never volunteer to do this anymore.
I really kind of roped him into it. My bad.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think it ends up costing him.
It goes for a go. It goes to a good cause, though. Thank you, Ed. Thank you. Okay, we all digress. David Downing, I think you have something up your sleeve that you would like to impart to the crowd.
You know, Clinda, in usual fashion, hits me with this thing yesterday afternoon, and then he didn't even show up today. So, Phil, we have Big 12 championship implications here. Any OSU fans in the house, please? Yeah. All right, good. I'm gonna put $100 to the foundation that we beat Lakin's team on Saturday. Who's with me? $100 that we beat. There's one. Who else? If we win, if Oklahoma State wins, $100 to the foundation. I see hands going up all over the place. Bring your checkbooks next week, fellas. We're going to beat the Bears on Saturday. Thanks, President Kidd.
Okay, Phil's up for 100. Are you matching every 100 the hands that went up there, Phil? We had to hear about those Baylor Bears all year.
And Phil, you just got a raise, so come on.
Oh! Okay, moving on. I like the challenge, you guys. Thank you. That's going to be a great game. Now, our Rotarian of the day is Joe Moore. He joined our club in April 2013. He's a native Tulsan who attended Edison High School, Southern Methodist University in Dallas, and Oklahoma University Medical School. He had a 32-year career as a physician in the Tulsa area until retiring last month. He now oversees the daily operation of his family's business, Moore and Fitzgerald Funeral Homes. Please welcome our Rotarian of the Day, Joe Moore.
Thank you, President Karen. Our speaker today is Reverend Deron Spoo, who is lead pastor of First Baptist Church in Tulsa. Deron is originally from San Angelo, Texas. He received his BA degree from Angelo State University and his Master's of Divinity from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. Deron lives in Tulsa with his lovely wife, Paula, and their 3 children. His favorite TV shows are Big Bang Theory and Modern Family. He also, as I am, is a fan of Star Trek and considers the 2 recent J.J. Abrams-directed Star Trek movies to be among the best movies of the past few years. His current iPod playlist includes Bryan Adams, Regina Spektor, Jackson Browne, Van Morrison, Alan Jackson, and especially the Eagles. Yes, that's right. His hobbies include traveling with his family, collecting coins, and growing the hottest jalapenos in Oklahoma. Deron came to Tulsa and joined the First Baptist staff in 2000. His first action as lead pastor was to make the church motto to glorify God in all we do. And under Deron's leadership, First Baptist has tried to do that. It's been truly gratifying during the past 13 years to see the developments at First Baptist, including expansion of the Caring Center and ministry to the homeless, student and senior ministries, and world missions. And these programs have greatly benefited people in Tulsa and all around the world. Deron's best talent is his ability to communicate the message of God's love. It's my privilege to introduce my pastor and friend, Deron Spoo.
Thank you. And I look around this room, and you've got some really good people here in this room. Many people I consider friends, Jerry Dillon, Steve Whitaker, Vic Robards down here, Graydon Yohe, Bill Miller, who's a neighbor, and Judge Ed Hicks, who is on the team that brought me to Tulsa almost 14 years ago now. So if it's not good today, you can blame him. And I told Dr. Moore that the best thing he said in that entire introduction was just friend. He's a good friend. So I often hear the comment, and I often hear the complaint that Christmas just seems to come earlier and earlier every year. That no sooner is Halloween on the horizon, but that we start hearing Christmas songs on the radio, and we see Christmas commercials sprout up on the television. And I have to step back and take a critical eye at that and say, why? Why does it seem Christmas comes earlier and earlier every year? Why are we so anxious to get to that particular season? I believe it's because we are desperate to celebrate something called joy. I mean, we all long for joy in our life. We live in a world that is broken. We live in a world of a lot of misery, and just the footage from the Philippines lately has reminded us of that. We live in a world that's fatigued. We're always looking forward to the next trial or the next tragedy and wondering what that would be. So we just have a longing for this thing called joy. One of my favorite Christmas stories, several years ago, my family and I were walking through the mall, and my then 5-year-old son was holding my hand, my youngest son, Seth, who's very much like me. We're walking along, and we passed by the Victoria's Secret window in the mall. And I learned a long time ago, keep your eyes forward when you walk by the Victoria's Secret window. So we're walking by, but my son has not yet learned this, and so he begins to scan the entire length of the Victoria's Secret's window, which has models and mannequins that, let me put this delicately, they were dressed in their Christmas nightwear. Does that help get the picture? So he scans the entire length of this window, and then he turns to look up at me and say something, and I just cringe just a bit, wondering what's coming. And he goes, "Daddy, those must be Santa's little helpers." So they are. The eyes of innocence. And then I turned to my wife and said, "Now we know why Santa is such a jolly old elf." Yeah. We all long to experience this thing called joy, and we can't wait for that. But as much as we need joy, we also need something else. You see, sandwiched between October 31st, which is Halloween, and December 1st, which is kind of the beginning of Christmas. Sandwiched between those two events is this other month called November. And November brings with it, it is synonymous with Thanksgiving. November is synonymous with gratitude, and I would contend that we need gratitude. And I'm going to center my remarks today around one simple quote. This quote is by an old Catholic mystic named Meister Eckhart. At one time, he was in favor with the church authorities and then kind of fell out of favor and then back in favor again. And I just tend to gravitate toward people who get kicked out of things. So Meister Eckhart says this. He says, if the only prayer you ever pray in your entire life is thank you, that will suffice. If the only prayer you ever pray in your entire life is thank you, that will suffice. Now, I don't agree necessarily with his exact words, but I get what he's trying to say. That we have need in our lives of something called gratitude, because what gratitude is, it's an open acknowledgement that there are things that have come into our life that we have neither earned nor deserved. And it's an open acknowledgement of the fact that life is better than what any of us deserve. So I want to invite you to a conversation for a few minutes today. And the tragedy of this is you're only going to hear out loud one part of this conversation, and that's what I'm saying. But I'm very aware that as I speak, there's going to be another part of this conversation happening inside of your mind. Because as I go through and just share a few things that I think we ought to be thankful and grateful for, I realize that as significant as what I'm saying is what's going on in your heart and your soul and your mind. So let's start with something really good that we should all be grateful for. Mentors. Mentors, it's actually one of my favorite words. It comes from Homer. When Ulysses went off to fight the Trojan Wars, he left his young son Telemachus under the charge of an older, wiser man, and Homer gives this man the name Mentor. And Mentor's job was to teach this young boy not just book smarts, but street smarts. He wasn't just to give him an education. He was to lend him some of his own life's experience. And so that's where we get the word mentor. And I look around in a room like this, and I can't help but think that every single one of us here in this room have had people that have been pivotal in our lives that have helped us to become who we are and to get where we find ourselves today. If you're really fortunate, one of your best mentors will be somebody that you're related to. And just by the blessing of biology, you happen to be related to somebody who is excellent. If you're really lucky, one or two of those is your parents. I'm fortunate to be close to my parents, and I count my dad to this day as a person who was a very strong mentor. I'm the first person in my family to ever go into ministry. And so in my younger teenage years, as I was beginning to consider this whole idea of being a minister, being a pastor, I wasn't sure how my parents would respond to that. My brother and sister had already left the house, and so I was the only one left for my parents to pick on. So we're around the dinner table one night, and the conversation I knew was coming finally took place. My dad said, so Deron, what do you think you want to do for the rest of your life? I said, Dad, well, it may sound silly, but I think I want to go into ministry. I think I might even want to pastor someday. And my dad's face dropped. And I thought, oh boy, here it comes. And he said, if you think it sounds silly, you better find something else to do with your life. Obviously, that was an important event for me because it stuck with me to this day. Just to have somebody in my life to say, you know what, you need to be bold in a world that might teach you how to be afraid. That you need to take actions that are independent of the opinions of other people. And there's something about the power of conviction and calling that can fuel you for the length of your life, if you'll let it. So now some of you have those biological mentors. Just by the grace of God, you were born into the right family among the right people. But equally lucky are those who just happen, you run into people in the course of your life. You didn't earn it or deserve it or plan it, but you ran into people who I would just label spiritual mentors. For me, one of my key professors during my graduate studies was a man by the name of Dr. Calvin Miller. He was very instrumental in my life. I learned as much from his office and working with him as I did in any classroom. There was a time, though, in my second year of graduate studies, I was taking a full load of graduate work. I was pastoring a church on the weekends. I was his grader and his research assistant, and I was full up. I had more on my plate than what I could handle, and he was pressing me for more productivity. And finally, one morning, I walked into his office. I said, Dr. Miller, you need to ease off the gas pedal here just a little bit. You're giving me more than what I can handle. It's just too much. And he was silent for a long, long time. And with a very straight face, he said, Deron, I want you to listen to me. 1 foot up, 1 foot down. That's the way to London town. I looked back at him and I said, I have no idea what you just said. But I did. It's a little piece of wisdom from Mother Goose that the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And isn't that just like a mentor, somebody to come along beside you and help you to have a steady hand when your cup is full? Mentors. Who are your mentors? If the only prayer you ever pray in your entire life is thank you, that will suffice. Now, I want to go on the opposite end of the spectrum because it's really good to have mentors, and we appreciate that, but let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum and talk about something that is not too pleasing. Problems. I believe we should be grateful for our problems. Now, here's 2 common pieces of wisdom that we often hear about problems that I have outright rejected. Some people will say, there are no problems, there are just opportunities. I disagree. I've got problems, all right? They don't feel like opportunities at all, all right? I also hear people say, well, you can't worry about your problems and pray about your problems at the same time. Friends, I have perfected that into an art form, okay? Yes, you can do both of them. Why in the world would we ever think about being grateful for problems? Scientists actually have a name for something that we've all experienced. Have you ever gone to a drawer and pulled out an extension cord? And you put it away neatly, but now it's all kind of twisted and tangled around itself. Or you go pick up your earbuds for your iPod, and the cord's all twisted, and you need to straighten it out. Scientists have a name for why cords just kind of seem to wrap around themselves. It's called spontaneous knotting. Friends, life spontaneously knots. And we experience all kinds of real problems, but we face problems with a sense of gratitude because through the course of a problem, we realize the other people who are there to support us in life. We realize the opportunity to again become more dependent on God. We realize that self-sufficiency is actually self-deception, and life is bigger than what you and I can handle alone. And the really mature people are those who, when they face problems, do not throw a temper tantrum, but who decide to be thankful. If the only prayer you ever pray in your entire life is thank you, that will suffice. Now let's move on. We've talked about the good and the bad, the mentors and the problems. Let's look out here just a little bit. Something that we should all be grateful for in life, or just other people. In fact, when I do a wedding, since I'm in charge, I can stop the wedding right in the middle, and I'll tell the bride and groom, quit looking at each other. You've been mushy enough. We're all getting tired of that. I want you to look around and just don't look at each other for a minute. Look around this room and look around at your family. They're here. They love you. Your best friends are here. They're proud of you. Just stop and look around in life and see the people that love you and care for you very much. You are a blessed person if you live with people you love, if you work with people that you respect. And what's also fun is to find those people, and I know we live in a world with a lot of questionable characters, and it's easy to become skeptical or jaded, but to also remember that there are just some really good people out there. 10 years ago, my kids were all preschoolers. My wife brought the kids all by the office early one morning. It was going to be a long day. I wasn't going to be home till late that night after the kids were in bed. So she was gracious enough to bring the kids by to see me that morning at the office. Nothing better than preschoolers in the morning. Hair's combed, faces clean, clothes pressed, shoes on the feet. I hug them all, pat them all on the head, and they leave, and my wife goes off to run about 3 hours worth of errands. Now, at the end of 3 hours, the preschoolers looked very different, as you can imagine. Now, hair was matted, faces were dirty, juice spilt down the front of the shirt, shoes off the feet, grunge on the bottom, and that's just the way my wife looked. The kids look even worse. Okay? She cleans up nice, by the way, but it's very different. You know what it's like running errands with preschoolers. So the last stop is a supermarket where my wife's going to buy dinner that night, and my 5-year-old girl picks up a pack of gum in the checkout line and says, "Mom, can we buy a pack of gum?" And what my wife said was, "I'm sorry, honey, we don't have money for gum." Now, you know what she means by that. It's just we're not going to buy every pack of gum that we find. But a woman in the checkout lane next to her overheard this, looked over and saw the mangled toddlers and the cry for gum and the confession of no money. And so in her mind, she put 2 and 2 together and came up with 5. So she walks over to my wife. Now, mind you, she is the pastor's wife of First Baptist Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Pulls out $20, hands it to my wife, said, "Honey, you get those kids some bubble gum." I said, honey, what'd you do? She said, "Put the $20 in my pocket and got the kids some gum." That's my girl. I also have to confess that one of our favorite family activities for a while was to meet at the Dirty Clothes Hamper on Saturday morning, throw on the grungiest clothes we could find, and go out on the town. It was awesome. It was also very lucrative during those years, just as a side note. God is good, and it's often helpful to remember that his goodness most often flows through the life of other people. And the challenge is not just to appreciate the good people in our life. The challenge is to be one of those people that's a good person. So we've looked out. Just look around at the people around you. I think to be grateful, by the way, if the only prayer you ever pray in your entire life is thank you, that will suffice. Take a moment now to look in, because I'm talking to a professional organization, and I have no doubt that I'm talking to a room of very gifted and very talented people. And so with those gifts that we have, I think it's a good pause to remember whatever gift we have been given. We did not necessarily earn it or deserve it. Now, in many of our cases, we've had to refine our gift, but the seed of that ability is just a gift from God for which we need to be grateful. A few years ago, I read the story in the Wall Street Journal about what critics considered to be the best beer in the world. It's produced in West-Velteren, Belgium. It's called West-Velteren beer. It's produced at St. Sixtus Monastery. It's just a little monastery nestled up in the hills. And they produce only so much of this beer every year. And again, connoisseurs say that it is the best in the world. And they've been under quite a bit of pressure to produce more of it. But the monks said, hey, we don't live to make beer. We make beer so we can live, keeping it all in perspective. Now, I mention this to you because I think it's funny for a Baptist pastor to talk about beer. Also, the holidays are coming, just a gift idea, all right? And I have a bottle of this beer sitting on my desk at home. Now, this bottle is empty now, but it was given to me after I mentioned it on a Sunday morning. A friend of mine bought me a bottle of this beer, and I keep it right there on my desk as a visible reminder that if you're going to do something, be it making beer or doing business or just deciding who you're going to become, while you're doing it, you might as well be the best at it. And you might as well do the very best. And to remember those gifts that we have been given on the inside, if we have received those unearned, undeserved, it's a cause for humility. It also might help us understand our destiny. If the only prayer you ever pray in your entire life is thank you, that will suffice. So I've got to mention one more thing, because my goal here today was just to give us reason to be grateful and to look at the good and the bad, the mentors and the problems, to look outside and inside to see people and gifts that we're given. But every now and then there comes along those events and experiences in life that transcends the categories. Anne Lamott, a few years ago, wrote a book. It's called 3 Essential Prayers, and the title of the book was this: Help, Thanks, Wow. I go, you know, those are 3 pretty good prayers. Help, thanks, wow. Every now and then there comes those events in life that catch us by surprise, and we just have to say, wow. So it was 6.5 years ago. My family and I were on sabbatical. We were traveling through Europe. We had never done anything of that level before, but we spent a couple of months on the continent, and we were getting ready to come back to the United States. My daughter at that time was 10 years old, and over the course of that summer, she developed a fear of flying, which is not good when you're flying from one place to another, and now she's over it now, it's fine, but for some reason that summer, it just really haunted her. And of course, what loomed large was that last leap over the pond to come back home. So we were in London. We were about a week away from leaving. We're on the London Tube, riding along when a very well-dressed, well-mannered gentleman stepped aboard. He heard our Texas twang, and so we struck up a conversation. And then he turned to my daughter and he said, I'm one of the most interesting people you'll ever meet in your entire life. And so I had to prompt my daughter, ask him why. So she asked why. He said, I'm one of the few people to ever survive a major airline disaster. I look at him and I'm thinking, what are you about to do to me, man? What are you about to do to me? And he went on to tell an elaborate story. And fortunately, I did receive his name before we parted company. He taught at a university in England, and we were able to correspond after we got back home. But he began to tell a story about as a young man, he and his brother and mother and father were on a plane crossing South Africa when their plane crashed, and only he and his mother survived. He said this. He said, you know what God taught me through that experience? God taught me that he would always be looking out for me. It gets better. Then he looked at my daughter, and he said, and I have a feeling God's going to be looking out for you too. With that, he stepped off the tube and out of our lives. And I was able to turn to my daughter at that point and say, you know what? If you've ever experienced God speak directly to you, that's it. Wow. If the only prayer you ever pray in your entire life is thank you, that will suffice. You see, what gratitude does is it reminds us the kind of world that we live in. That we don't live in a world of karma, that you ultimately get what you deserve. Gratitude is a reminder that we live in a world of grace, that a lot of what we get, we have neither earned nor deserved. And so really the most appropriate thing we can say is just that. Thank you. And thank you for letting me share this time with you today. God bless you.
Okay, we have a book that will be given to our adopt-a-school, Celia Clinton, and it's My Brave Year of Firsts. And thank you so much for coming to speak with us today. Really enjoyed that. And upcoming programs, we have Michael Skelly, Clean Line Energy, and he is flying all the way up from Texas tomorrow, or next Wednesday, to speak to us, and then he'll be heading back out. So we'd love for you, if you have some out-of-town guests who are coming for Thanksgiving, feel free to bring them, because we'll have a few members who are going to leave early, so we'll have plenty of room. Don't worry about making reservations. So if you have any guests that you'd like to bring, he's going to be a fabulous speaker, and so I'd really like us to have a nice full house for him. And then the next week, Rhonda Noonan will be speaking to us, and she's going to tell us about her journey to locate her birth family, and she discovered that she was related to Winston Churchill. So that's going to be a lot of fun too. And now, our mystery Rotarian hidden in red. Our Rotarian is fast asleep. He is dreaming of the day he will run cross country. He would be such an athlete that he would attract and marry his high school sweetheart. Little did he know that in addition to being a runner, our mystery Rotarian, Michael Homan, is also a superhero in disguise. With that, I will close this Rotary meeting. Have a great week. See you next week. And happy Thanksgiving for those of you who will be gone.